Originally a fast pursuit police car, then converted to Group B rally specification, broken up and sold on, and then fully rebuilt some 40 years later. Now every Mini has got history, but I'm sure not many have got the story like the Mini that we're featuring on this episode of Viewers Drives. Here we have Ronnie Nesbitt's 1964 Mini Cooper S. During the early 1960s, the RUC, which was Northern Ireland's police force, the Royal Ulster Constabulary, introduced a fleet of unmarked high-performance cars as traffic control and for high-performance pursuits. Of these Q cars, as they became known as, around 30 Mini Coopers were pressed into service as their high-performance pursuit cars. Ronnie's Mini is just one of these cars and operated under the call sign Mike 704. Now, Mike 704 was pressed into service between April 1964 and February 1965. Now, this service would have been much longer if the patrol officer hadn't burned out the clutch in his patrols around the greater Belfast area. So the Mini was just simply sent off then to the RUC workshops to have the necessary repairs carried out. However, the RUC workshop was not used to working on front-wheel drive cars such as the Mini, and therefore the Mini just sat on one side until it was later sold to A.S. Baird's in 1966. It was at this point that the Mini went from pursuing speeding motorists to pursuing the top spot in Ireland's rally stages. It was Jim Henry, a friend of Ronnie's, who bought the car from A.S. Baird's in Belfast. He then stripped the car and converted to full works Group 2 rally specification. Jim campaigned the Cooper S for the next 2 years and it achieved some very respectable results in the 1967 and 1968 Circuit of Ireland rallies. Ronnie bought the Cooper from Jim that same year for £500, and that is one we all wish we could still pay for a rally spec Cooper S. So for the next 3 years, Ronnie competed in the Mini in very similar events as Jim, all over the island of Ireland, and the Mini was always a front runner. Ronnie finished 4th in the 1969 Ulster Rally Championship and 3rd in the Donegal Rally that same year. So by 1970, the car was beginning to show signs of stress and wear from all its rally campaigning, and so was then reshelled with a new shell, with the original shell was simply retired and set to one side. Ronnie then went on to campaign in the new car for a number of years until it was sold off to a stock car racer. Well, the Coopers had quite the history up until this point, but from here we'll jump forward about 30 years and the story recommences with the rebuild starting on this car. So Ronnie told me that he had been at a local car show when he bumped into somebody he hadn't met for a very, very long time. So this friend actually told Ronnie that he had the original engine that he rallied with all those years ago, and it had been sitting under his workbench for over 25 years. So upon inspection of it, Ronnie was able to confirm that it was indeed his engine, and it actually still had a lot of the original bits on it from whenever he was rallying the Cooper. It did take some convincing, but over a year later, the friend agreed to sell Ronnie the engine back. Now, Ronnie still had a lot of the parts from the Cooper whenever he was rallying it, such as the Britax harnesses, the roll cage, the split 40 Webers, and other little trick parts. And he was starting to collect other bits and pieces over for the car to make the rebuild commence. He also knew where the original Halda trip meter had gone, and the new owner, thankfully, was willing to sell it back to help the rebuild. So the revival of 8509 GZ was a go, and work was able to be started on the original shell that Ronnie still had in storage all these years later. It took 3 months of cutting, welding and repairing to have the shell solid and rot free, with most of the panels coming from M Machine. Now these included the following: inner and outer sills, inner and outer wings, front panel, door skins, quarter panels and an entire boot floor. Everything was seam welded and the newly repaired shell was sent off to the paint shop to be resprayed in its original Old English white and black colour scheme, including the top of the wings and the bonnets as you see here. Now, I mentioned that Ronnie was able to get that original engine back, so let's pop the bonnet and we'll see what he got. Okay, so let's take a look under the bonnet. So Ronnie had his old friend Jim Henry, who had built the engine and converted the car all those years ago to do the reconditioning. He fitted new liners and reboarded to 1330, which is the same specification as when the car was last rallied back in 1970, with a 649 cam and the EN40B crank retained. The big valve head was reused after an overhaul, and actually back in the day had been modified by some of Downton's top men. The 4-speed straight-cut gearbox was retained, as was the 4-to-1 diff, and this was refitted in order to retain the car's heritage as it was back in its heyday. Just coming in, you just see the attention to detail that Jim Henry had spent on this engine, and getting this converted and reconditioned back for refitting back into the car again for Ronnie. And there's those beautiful split 40 Webers, which gives the car a fantastic bark as well, in beautiful order. The brakes have all been renewed, of course, with the original Cobra setup up front, lighting drums at the rear. All the brake lines and fuel lines are now running inside the car for protection, and Ronnie has also fitted the Dunlop D1s, which are a wheel that he used back in period. Okay, so let's have a look inside. You see what we are presented with here. So jumping inside, the interior's all been renewed. These beautiful and very comfortable bucket seats in the original specification red and brocade trim, that gold brocade as you can see. The rear seat as well has been recovered and retrimmed in new material. The door cards and the headlining all from Newton Commercial and replicate the originals perfectly. Just that work style dashboard is perfectly at home in here, with all the correct labelling and that original Halda Twin Master sitting a pride of place where it belongs. Definitely a really, really special place to be. Even you can see there we have the map reading light for the navigator with the potty magnifier. We have our washer bottle inside, switch, all the fuse boxes for the switches. Again, we have a little auxiliary switch panel in the door pocket with everything to hand, everything close by for your rallying. And just as all Cobra S's, we have the chrome gear lever there as well. Yeah, so sitting here behind the wheel in these period bucket seats with the period harnesses as well, which are the ones that Ronnie used back in period, right down to that lovely 3-point roll cage, John Alley Bars roll cage as well. It's such a nostalgic little place to be in here, and even the smell, which you're not going to be able to get through the video obviously, but it just oozes all of the history and the stories that this car has, which is what minis are all about as well, which I love. And this is one thing which I love about GZ here, and its amazing history of where it came from and how it evolved and how it became the rally car that we have here today. Okay, just as we come around the back of the Mini here, it's it all standard Cobra S here, as you can see, with the flap obviously for lowering the boot lid. So just to come in here, we just pop off a little rubber stairs, drop this down, and just that reveals the twin tanks with the boot board, which is obviously covering the spare wheel and the battery. And we have that pair of facet fuel pumps there, one for each of the tanks as well. So you can just see the attention to detail that Ronnie has put into this build that just makes this car just so eye-catching, that right down to that the black top and the wings and the bonnet, right down to the Lucas spotlights as well, and even the livery that the car once rallied on as well, if that 1970 Texaco Rally that he has there as well. Just an absolutely beautiful build of a car there too, and it's even that more special too that it's flanked by its history as a rally car there as well. Just like I'm saying, as we walk around the car, we see the attention to detail that Ronnie and his group of friends had put into bringing this project alive again and making it perfect. Like Ronnie told me as well, that during the build they had some great laughs, they renewed old friendships, and it's not all exactly what minis are all about. It's all about bringing people together and just reliving old memories and reliving history. So it's fantastic to see it here, and I really want to thank Ronnie for giving me the opportunity just to feature it here on the channel. Like I said, I've always admired GZ. It's certainly up there in my top 10 minis of all time, and I love too that Ronnie isn't afraid to go out and use it. He attends so many shows with it, and often or not comes away with a trophy, and that's exactly what it was built to do. It was there to pursue that top spot, but yeah, like I said, it's lovely to see it, and yeah, I hope you enjoy looking at it as much as I have as well, and yeah, hopefully we'll get to see it out and about in the future as well. Well, I know what you're all waiting for. Let's turn the key, let's hear those Webers burble, and listen to that straight cut wine. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again very, very soon.